You introduce it.
Welcome, guys. Today we are going to talk about fear and turning fear into fuel and changing your mind on what fear means. Because I know personally that fear can be one of those emotions that just makes you go, run away from everything. And, you know, for many years, I took intoxicants and all sorts of things to alleviate that sort of pain. And hopefully today we can give you a few tools on if you recognize that fear is present within you, what you can do with that.
Yeah.
So what's your experience with fear? And fear of failure. Like there's so many different variables when we think about fear.
Yeah, like I guess one thing that I kind of really wanted to allude to. One thing that I really wanted to allude to was like how often do people think of doing or wanting to do something big, but through fear of failure kind of prevent themselves from doing it, whether it be change a job, change a career, invest in property, invest in assets, invest in and so many people see that could be a vehicle for success in their life and they just don't do it. Why do they not do it? And it's usually when you strip it all back, it's just fear.
Yeah.
I was reading something last night. I forgot the name of the book now.
How to Become Dangerous?
Yeah. And actually, the first page, it kind of says, not dangerous in the strict sense that most people know the word, but just to truly be who you want to be and go for it. And the book was alluding to the fact that as we become adults, we've got so much to lose, and it's deep wired into our system, because when we were in the bygone era, if you got cut from the pact because you said something that you shouldn't have said, or you did something that was out of the ordinary, that meant death.
It meant certain
if you
death.
was cut from the pact, like in the cave stones,
Stone Age, whatever.
Stone Age,
cavemen.
It did ultimately mean death.
Yeah.
So people still have that hardwired into the system that if they make this radical change, that everything that's going to come crumbling down. You're going to be homeless. You're going to have no friends. You're going to have no family members. And life isn't like that anymore. Like if you start a business and it fails, guess what? You just go back to another job and you start again.
Yeah. So that's advanced level. What you're describing there is limbic hijacking. So we all get hijacked by our limbic system. A really great book on this is Dr. Steve Peters' The Chimp Paradox, where he talks about this stuff.
Yeah.
And we all have a chimp, and that chimp is narrating all sorts of stuff, and it's filling us full of propaganda and fear. And you know, he talks about how to deal with your chimp, how to reprogram your computer so that the adult human is driving the car instead of being limbically hijacked by your chimp. And that's really important.
I always remember with that book, is there, I swear there's a picture in one of the chapters where there is literally a chimp sat on somebody's shoulder banging cymbals. Yeah. And honestly, that picture will always stay with me, because at the time when I was reading it, I was 19. And to be honest, a lot of it was kind of going over my head. I was not ready for a book like that at that time. But it's interesting that you can read a book, stumble through it, but take the principle away. And the principle for me that I took away from that book was that I've got this internal dialogue that obviously Steve Peters calls the chimp. And it's just trying to ruin your life almost. It's trying to tell you that.
So back to the story of the cave-dwelling people. It's actually not trying to ruin your life. It's actually trying to save you and to keep you alive. Because in the limbic system, the belief is that if we upset the apple cart socially and we sort of get ostracized, that meant death. Now, we haven't caught up. Unfortunately, we're not adapted enough to a position to be able to go, that's not true. There's still a belief almost that's survival kicking in to say, you better watch out for this. This could be a problem. And that's where a lot of the fears will arise from. It'll arise from a story that is maladapted with the aim to keep you alive. So what we have to do is to train ourselves to realize when fear is present a great question to ask is, what the hell am I repeating to myself that is exacerbating this fear within me? What is going on, right? Now that's at an advanced level. People that have not been exposed to these ideas mightn't even see the choice to be able to ask that question initially. But if you become introspective enough, you will, gain the skill to be able to go, okay, calm down. What's going on here? What's actually going on here?
So again, we come back to kind of something that we've spoken about in previous episodes, which is journaling. It is surrounding yourself with people that ask healthier, better questions, and to become more self-aware, more introspective, and encourage obviously people to do that. And obviously, we're talking about an internal dialogue and the chimp paradox or the limbic system, but is the environment that we're in also elusive to?
Yeah, so a lot of the time this will come about when people are maybe stepping outside of their comfort zone in some way. They might realize that they're trying something new and it's challenging, and naturally an emotion will come up, a fear will come up. And it's not in the realm of conscious awareness. It's underneath that. It's at the level where we just have habitual things that we say to ourselves, and they become strong emotions because the belief is triggering an emotion, right? So there's this framework that I help people with. I've told you about this, CTFAR. All of our circumstances, C stands for circumstances. We have a set of circumstances in our life, and we're walking through our life. I'm a man, I'm in Poland, and all of those circumstances have thoughts attached to them. I have thoughts and judgments about those circumstances. Everyone has judgments about their circumstances and other people's circumstances as well. The trick is to understand and become aware of what you're thinking about your circumstances, because your thoughts are triggering feelings. The F stands for feelings. How you feel is related to what you're thinking about your circumstances, right? So if you don't like your circumstances, that might elicit anger or frustration or annoyance or some of those emotions. But if your circumstances are favorable and you're like, oh, this is great, you might feel excitement, happiness, joy, whatever it may be. If you're feeling fear, you're probably going to take actions. So A stands for actions. You're going to take actions related to those feelings. So if you're feeling fear, you're probably going to be like, shying away, not taking the most...
or moving away from rather than towards.
Exactly. You'll be like, oh, I'm not
Most
doing
people,
that.
if they're struck by fear, they tend to move away. And
exactly. And if you continually move away, if that's your action related to those feelings that you have, over time, the result that you'll get is, well, you're not going to progress to where it is that you want to go.
So to summarize CTFAR, it's circumstances,
Thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And what I encourage people to do is look at the result that you're getting in your life. Why did you get that result? What are the actions and behaviors that you've been taking related to that?
So results and circumstances, obviously, at either side of the model.
But the only place that we have agency and power and autonomy is in our thoughts. If your thoughts are not working for you and they're telling you, you should be afraid of this or you should not try this, what's going to happen? You're not going to grow. You're not going to move forward. Sometimes you just have to feel the emotion and over time change the relationship you have with that. And ultimately what you're doing is you're changing your thoughts. Steve Peters talks about the computer. We all have a computer, and that's where our habits and our behaviors come from. So if you're telling the computer, this is just the way I am, there's nothing I can do about it, you're going to stay that way. You ultimately have to challenge your thoughts and say, what thoughts do I need to be thinking habitually over time to get me to take the actions and behaviors that I want to be taking to get those results that I want?
And in regards to kind of fear of failure, like, what is failure in a way? Like, let's unpick that, because if I think of like my failures in my life and my business journey to date, they've actually been great lessons. And I'm glad that we did fail, because that sharpened the axe and made me better at who I am, and led me to more business success in the future. So like from the outside looking in, people might think, oh, like your journey's been smooth, plain sailing, really smooth. It's been far from it. Like I've had 2-3 failed businesses where we've departed, we've gone our separate ways. I've bought business partners out of one. I've left others with probably making a little bit of a loss. And it's like, actually, that was just an education to get me to the next place. So I'm glad those failures happened. And I think if we reframe failure, it becomes less scary.
Exactly.
So that fear of failure gets watered down and watered down. So then you almost become numb to it and you're like, okay, cool. I'll try and I'll fail and I'll grow. I'll adapt. And that's for me was the biggest thing, is once I realized that, okay, it's cool. You can fail and you don't lose everything.
Okay, so what you've done there is you've changed the meaning of what failure means. A lot of people think of failure as something to be ashamed of, and it will fill them full of nasty emotions, right? It's like, I'm a failure. It means that you're unlovable in some ways, or that, you know, it's the end of the world, right? There's a judgment attached to that word failure in many cultures, unfortunately. And you've said it really nicely there, that you changed your relationship to the idea of that. You view it now as an opportunity for growth, which is fantastic. And many people should really think about, are they doing the same? Are they thinking about it as the end of the world, or are they thinking, you know, this is an opportunity for me to move forward and grow?
And for something to be proud of as well.
Exactly.
Like, because you took the leap that thousands before you haven't done, or hundreds before you haven't done. Like if you're in an environment, let's say the pub in England, it's like you'll be sat with 10 people that have all got ambitions, all got dreams and aspirations, but most of them aren't kind of moving the needle and moving towards it. So if you've tried, failed, come back, and then try again, you should be proud of that, regardless of the failure, regardless of the fact that, you know, the business didn't quite work out, or an investment went wrong or whatever. It's like, well, at least you're being brave, at least you're putting your neck above the parapet and standing up for, well, moving towards what you truly want to achieve.
Yeah. Like, what's the percentage of millionaires in the world?
Less than 1%, probably.
Right. Why is that?
Because of fear of failure.
Yeah, and a lot of people accept mediocrity. Probably.
Which, by the way, is one of my biggest fears. There's way more bigger fears. I'm actually scared of scared of the dark. No, but fear of mediocrity and fear of being like everybody else drives me. Like, I don't want to be like everybody else. I want to do the things that most others don't. That definitely gets me out of bed. Is I feel proud when I'm doing something that is against the norm.
And that's congruent with your identity as an entrepreneur. Because if you didn't have that fear of mediocrity, there might be an element where you accept mediocrity and you might let it in. And that would be really detrimental for the direction that you're going with your business, your portfolio, your property acquisition, all of that stuff.
And it does happen though. Like, I've definitely been in moments and chapters of my life where I've been mediocre, and it hurts.
Right.
It hurts because I'm thinking I'm leaving something on the table here. I'm not fulfilling my potential.
And it becomes a catalyst for growth then, right? So you're looking at the result where you're feeling that and you're saying, oh, I don't want to feel this anymore. What am I going to do?
It's almost like I always say that it's the comfort zone, isn't it? And when you're in that mediocre, like that kind of feeling of it's easy until it isn't.
Yeah.
So for me, like, kind of, no, I don't need to get up at any particular time in the day. Like, if I get up at 9 or 8 or 6, it's because I've chosen to. And some days I'll stay in until 11 because nobody's getting me out of bed other than myself. And if I do that for 3 or 4 days, it's nice and easy at the time, but then it eats away at you because you go, what am I leaving on the table?
Yeah.
Why have I done that? And what could I have achieved in those kind of like few hours that I just lay comfortably in bed thinking nobody's asking me to get up or demanding that I get up. So it's comfortable until it isn't. And I would describe that as, I've seen that in so many people close to me, friends, family members, where like that fear of of it all going wrong, or that fear of like changing jobs and then that new job letting you go because you're not up to the task, or like they allow that fear of failure to just keep them in the comfort zone. And I think that staying in that comfort zone is such a dangerous trap, because if you stay there for long enough, you then just believe that you're not capable of ever getting out.
Right. So what you're talking about there is the gap between the T and the F, because you've talked a lot about the different feelings that come from certain thoughts. And where I'd really point people to is your ability to change the T. You can really only change your thoughts, because your thoughts then leads to how you feel, and how you feel leads to how you behave. So if you're not changing the thoughts, if you're encouraging those thoughts like, I can't, I shouldn't, I won't, I'm not able, what's going to happen? You're going to get actions and behaviors that are related to those thoughts. And what you've recognized is, oh, if I stay in the comfort zone, if I stay in bed, you're the one that has to live with that, right? And it's not acceptable for you.
Yeah. And it is. Ultimately it is just you. Like, the other people will crack on with their lives. They'll have an opinion on you for a period of time, but they're far too busy with their lives to care. It's you that has to sit with that kind of inner dialogue of, I'm not proud of myself. I didn't make that leap. I didn't make that change, and I'm still in the same place, feeling a bit meh.
Yeah, and you bring up something interesting there. It's our relationship to other people's judgments on us and why that matters. Because other people's judgments on us and other people's perceptions can elicit a lot of fear in people. It's like, oh, if they think this, what does that mean?
I experienced this when I first started documenting my journey in property. Like, so many people, like close friends as well, they'd be like, oh, like, who is this guy? Like, in the group chats, and there was half jesting but half being serious as well, and that was me stepping away from kind of societal norms, and either they didn't like it or I didn't like it, but something was happening there, and that could have really, I could have gone, oh no, I don't want to be ridiculed, I'm going to go back to just being one of the guys that I always was. And at first, like, breaking from that is one of the hardest things, because it's human nature to surround yourself with like people that make you feel comfortable.
This is the caveman stuff again. This is limbic hijacking.
Yeah.
And that feeling that if I go against the crowd, I'll be ostracized and I won't be liked. And in some way that translates to, I will die.
Yeah. And I still feel that now. Like, even though I'm 6 years into kind of like business, 6 years into investments, like, I still don't want people from my hometown and my family members to think that I've changed, because I have changed a considerable amount, and I've obviously gone on to do reasonably well, but it's like, I don't want them to think, oh, he's, this and he's that.
Too big for his boots.
Yeah, that's that's a fear as well. Like, so obviously you overcompensate then, and you try to be the person that you always was, which is hopefully respectful, patient, understanding, kind, give them, your time, because like, yeah, people's opinions and thoughts of you changing can like really. Yeah.
So this is a delicate balance.
Yeah.
It is a delicate balance. But sometimes people will recognize their circumstances that they're currently living in are not sustainable. And that's where I encourage people to look at what is the result that you're getting and work your way back up the model. So what actions do you need to take to get a new result? What is the result that you first of all want? What actions and behaviors do you need to be making in your life to get that result? How do you need to feel to be behaving like that? What do you need to be thinking to make you feel like that so that you behave like that? That's where that model is really, really powerful, because then you can recognize, I keep saying these things and they're not conducive to getting me to where I want to go. I need to say some new, wholesome, loving, whatever it might be, things to move you in a new direction. That ultimately gives you acceptance and all the good things that help you be who you want to be.
So when did you first get exposed to CTFAR, and when was the most prominent time that you used it in your life?
Yeah, so the first introduction, I would say, is one of the first books I ever read, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy.
We've read a lot of books kind of I've read them, you've read them. I've never read that one.
Yeah.
Never even heard of it.
Yeah. So he introduced me to the idea that how you entertain your thoughts matters a lot. And I didn't realize that what I was saying to myself was bringing me in the direction of I didn't want to go in. And over time, I started to realize I'm not really aware of a lot of the stuff I'm saying to myself. A lot of it is habitual. It's a lot of that sort of chimp stuff. It's programmed to say, you're shit, you're worthless, you're this, you're that. So it was saying a lot of bad stuff. And then I was like, I don't want to say that stuff to myself. That's not conducive to getting me to where I want to go in my life.
But it was from that book that you first got awareness of the concept.
Exactly.
And that's when you realized that you don't want to be saying those things anymore.
Exactly. And then I realized, okay, there's a school of psychology called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and they use a lot of that modeling where they look at ultimately what you're saying to yourself cognitively will create the behavior. So that's where the whole model comes from. And that CTFAR is it's a commonly used tool in coaching to help people realize you got to keep your eye on what you're saying to yourself, because you're having judgments about your circumstances and that is leading to how you're feeling. And usually the feeling is where people become aware. Fear, anger, frustration, anxiety. That's where people become aware. Oh, this is going on. But then you have to go back a step and realize, what am I saying to myself that is creating some of these feelings? And it's usually in those hidden judgments and hidden ideas of what it is that people are saying over and over in their mind, screaming at themselves sometimes, unfortunately.
So I guess you're speaking there about heightening your levels of introspection again. And what healthier questions, thought-provoking questions could you advise people to ask of themselves so that maybe reframes their current thoughts and their current... Ultimately, if you think of the CTFAR model, the only thing that you can control, which you've obviously alluded to before, is the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what thought-provoking questions could they ask?
So in relation to failure, I would encourage people, because a lot of people still frame certain failures they've experienced in their life as the worst thing ever. But I would encourage people to try and reframe some failure that they've experienced in their life as just feedback, as something to learn from. Not the worst thing. Try to pull away from viewing it negatively and view it in a way that empowers you to say, I've experienced this now. This is a good platform for me to move on to the next thing. These are the learnings that I can have from it. Like, I fell from a balcony 4 stories high, nearly killed myself, and I view that as the best thing that ever happened to me now.
Yeah.
Whereas many people will go, oh my God.
Shame.
Embarrassment. Like it was at the
guilt,
start, but I've reframed it now to be the most empowering thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Yeah. I would say that, obviously I know that investment is a broad term, but my second ever property investment, which was about £6,500, like that technically failed. Like, we had 6 months of it. We didn't have a strong enough contract. It was an Airbnb property and the neighbours weren't happy, complained to the council. We got shut down after 6 months. But within that 6 months, and I guess the reason it was outside of our kind of commutable area. So it was in Coventry. We're from Manchester. So it was about an hour and 40 minutes drive. So we weren't cutting the grass. So we weren't emptying the bins. We employed a management company to look after the unit for us.
And they dropped the ball.
And the management company dropped the ball. We didn't do enough due diligence. We didn't choose the right management company. We didn't have a local company. So they didn't have contacts with waste management companies. They didn't have contacts with gardeners. So when the neighbours were complaining, they weren't even able to address the changes. So after 6 months, we had the property. It was on Airbnb. It was actually doing really, really well, fortunately, because the 6.5 that we invested, we were making about £1,500 profit a month, roughly. So obviously, after 6 months of operating, we'd kind of broke even on our investment. But then, bang, council shut it down, and an investment that was going so well got cut straight away. And like, I never did another investment with that business partner at that time. Both still obviously in touch, still get along and whatever, but that fear of failure of like, oh no, like that happened to us and we don't want that to happen again. Or I guess what I'm trying to say is that we was okay, you know?
Yeah, you
like,
took a learning from it.
We failed, but we didn't lose any money.
Yeah.
We recovered the funds that we had. And we took so many lessons. Like, I've never invested in Coventry since. I've never employed a management company that I've not done a ridiculous amount of due diligence on. So I learned so much in just that one experience. And most people go, oh, like you tried an investment, after 6 months you had to hand the keys back. Like, oh, that's rubbish. That's failure.
Yeah, but that's their perception. That's armor for you now going forward.
Yeah.
It's not a failure. While it mightn't have succeeded and made you a millionaire, it's still armor for you to be able to say, here's XP. It's like a computer game. You've leveled up because of it.
But the lessons that might not have made me a millionaire, but the lessons that I take from it, do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's crazy that you can really reposition failure and it can drive you to a lot of really good things.
So that's really what I would encourage people to do. Take some form of failure that might have happened in your life or something that didn't go your way and think, what can you learn from it? There's always something you can learn from it. And if you're not integrating and digesting those learnings, you're leaving things on the table.
Would you say that you've got a similar story where like you've repositioned failure? So at the time, I know you've obviously alluded to the fall from the balcony, but have you had business partners that maybe quite
100%. Yeah, like I've had lots of different attempts at things that have made me realize who you work with is important. That's really important for me. Because I've worked with people who have had low emotional intelligence and that doesn't work well for me. I know that I like to work with people who are a bit savvy and working with, emotionally turbulent people doesn't work well for me.
Yeah, because I guess it's not kind of conducive to a thriving environment if they don't, if they've got low EQ or emotional intelligence, they're going to be a bit haphazard and a bit
volatile, unpredictable. Doesn't work well for me.
They don't know who they are and what they want, and or even just how to deal with a problem when a problem arises.
Yeah, communication is one of my highest values. So if somebody isn't communicating in terms of what's going on so that I can understand maybe how I can remedy the situation, that doesn't gel well with me.
Yeah. So again, you're talking about experiences there that you've learned from and now are benefiting from because you're choosing better business partners.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at that. I think that we've given people enough ammunition there to think about these ideas. Next week, we are going to talk about the comparison cycle and how to break it. So look forward to talking to you all then.
Yeah. See you on the next episode.